Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are about to have another wise conversation around here, all brought to you by our friends at Wise Markets. If you're watching out on our YouTube and you like the view, Jeff Moeller is selling my condo. It's listed right now. They say it has $1 million view. I say it's half price. Moeller and Gary Realty, make sure you get out there and check that out as well. The Crab Cake Tour begins this week. We'll be at State Fair next Friday. Al fresco. Don Moeller will tell you a little bit more about that out in his neighborhood, celebrating all things Catonsville and Music Town and all of that. But we're going to start at Fadley's this week, of course, with John Sarbanes talking all things Eastern Shore and where these crabs come from and how delicious they are. Also going over with our friends at Costas to celebrate their 50th anniversary. And, of course, our friends at Fadley's and Costas both ship crab cakes. We'll be talking a lot about crab cakes. We're doing a crab cake tour. And I've even managed to bring this guy out of crab cake retirement to potentially go on the road for a couple of these dates in August and try to have a little fun. He is former Baltimore County executive. He is Mike Kimosabi, co-host, friend, guidance counselor, and Recon-E. We welcome Don Moeller back onto the program. Don, welcome to the Recon. How are you?
Very, very well. Very well. Another week, every week when we get ready to do this, Nestor, I think, wonder if there'll be anything to talk about. And then every week there's another explosion of things, good, bad, the ugly, all kinds of stuff happening across the world. It's interesting, though, when I thought about this particular edition, we're coming off Mother's Day. And I think Mother's Day on social media, it's one of the really, as much as we all dread and know all the evils of social media, Mother's Day is one of the really nice days on social media because people really do take a moment to try to express, I think, in very heartfelt ways, how their moms are special. And I think we all did that. And I think of the moms, not only my mom.
No, you're a little off mic. Pull your mic up for me.
Not only my mom, but Linda and Jennifer and Sandra, the moms in my life. I think of your mom. Just how special they are and what an incredible job they've done. I always think of your mom. Nobody can think of your mom without her and a beer and a crab. What are your reflections, Nestor, when you wake up on a Mother's Day morning and you think of your mom? What brings a smile to your face about your mom?
Well, I put some pictures up, and thinking about traditions and things we did. And I guess more than that with her, it would probably be her quirks, right? Like my mother was Southern. She was born in 1919 in Abbeville, South Carolina. So she had like an East Baltimore accent that came from the South. So it made her voice even more funny. And she had all of those weird Southern sort of little expressions she would say. I mean, I thought of her the other day because I would ask this. I've been skipping meals around here, right? My wife hadn't been here in a couple of weeks. She's up with her sister hiking. And I wind up eating twice a day instead of 4 times a day. And I wind up, it's not as healthy as eating 3 times a day. I eat better when I eat 3 times a day. But I figure, like, if it's not really lunch and it's not really dinner, if you're eating at like 4 or 5 o'clock, I guess in the South they call it supper. I don't know. Like if it's not breakfast or lunch, it is brunch, right? Like we have a name for that. So I was trying to think of what my mother had a word. It wasn't supper and it wasn't dinner. She called it dunner. So, so it's just little things like that. So that when my wife and I go to eat, I'll say funny things my mother would say that you wouldn't find funny. It's inside baseball, right? But
what did your mom,
my mother, that's what I
what
think.
did she believe, Nestor? What did your mother believe about people and human? That's what I always come back to. What do people, we spend a lot of time.
Yeah. So you think my mother was much cuter and like my mother wasn't.
No, I'm
hyper
not
intelligent or hyper thoughtful or
what did she
hyper.
believe? But what did she believe?
All sorts of batshit stuff that I wouldn't tell you on the radio, to be honest. I mean, seriously, like she was born in 1919, I mean, she believed all sorts of frightening, fear mongering, all the stuff that Trump took advantage of people like her.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I'm just being honest with you.
no, that's what I'm asking.
What did she believe? On her best days, I guess, her best angels got to her. But yeah, I would say her belief system probably wasn't unlike a lot of people about fear and getting through things. But she wasn't a hill charger in that way philosophically.
No, I'm just saying. I think most folks believe something, and most parents transfer some of those beliefs to their children.
She
I look at
believed, to
my
be honest. She taught me those kinds of things, those kinds of basic be nice to people. She was
There
Southern,
you
you know what I
go.
mean?
Well, there
My
you go.
mother was nice to everyone.
Well.
So
See, there you go. That's a
part of
belief
that of
system.
me walking in and being a greeter, to some degree. But my mother was much more introverted, than I, but much more genteel, 20th century, being polite to people, not being rude to people.
Well,
Things
that's
that are gone.
start writing those down. You hesitated, and now you're coming up with a list that could be a book. I mean, those are powerful messages and beliefs your mom had. My mom never met a stranger. I mean, Linda jokes to this day, if somebody was walking down the street and was getting near dinner time, my mother was likely to say, "Have you had dinner yet? Hey, come on
See,
in."
if you want to go all Dr. Melfi on me, I have
No,
another mother, right? Like I have my maternal mother that you're not
right.
familiar with, who passed away about 5 years ago. And I share pictures of her sometimes, but she was the gregarious one. When I'm bawdy and over the top and nasty Nestor and having fun, that's my mother. My maternal mother had a broad laugh and for all of her challenges, and she had a very, very difficult life, my mother. And when I talk about my grandfather that blew the bugle at the track, which I did this week as well, many times at the Preakness, that's her father. My mother was a show. You know what I mean? My mother was loud. My mother was so all of those characteristics that so many people find so richly offensive. Probably my mother. So yes, that would be my DNA mother.
So my point is that I think on Mother's Day, people often take stock of who they are, how they became who they are, and I find it really, really interesting
The
because I think,
kindness in my mother Liz would be the kindness in me. And anyone that would feel kindness in me, that comes from my mother for sure. 1,000,000%.
and that's a wonderful thing. And that's really what I was thinking about over the past few days. The other thing you've made me think about, and I probably am unusual in this because people who know me, and we will get to some news and some Royal stuff and some Raven stuff here with the schedule.
I like talking about my mom once a year. It's
People,
great.
people,
I've got
well,
a University of Delaware magazine gal. She's the editor of the magazine, doing a big piece on Joe Flacco. So like she's gonna like get Melfi on me with Flacco this week. Like ask me all my Flacco stories. So between you chasing me about my mom and Preakness stories this week and Spring is Sprung and crab cakes, storytelling is what we do here, Don. So
well,
I
it's it, you know,
ask about
it,
my
and,
mom.
and I think it's important to stop and reflect. And as I started to say, this comes about because you're in the midst of trying to sell your condo, and I was thinking, people who know me, I started to say, know that I wear my emotions on my sleeve. My daughter, people have heard me say over and over, refers to all the Mower men as the weepy Mower men. We cry at movies. We're sentimental. We cry at emotional family moments. But the one thing, and I've moved, Linda and I joke, we've moved more than almost anybody I know in our universe. We've had so many homes, and
Really?
that's
I don't know that about you.
that's unlike me, right? I mean, you would think he's a
I've only
guy.
known you to live in two places, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh no. Let me see. We've lived in. I can walk through. I'm not going to bore everybody, but we lived in 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm
It's probably
52. I've lived in five places in
yeah.
my
It's
life.
probably our fifth home. Fifth, now counting the apartment, 6. So what I was thinking about when you posted those photos was most people are pretty emotional. You know, Melissa Lambert and others have written songs about going back to where they grew up. And I've liked every place that I've lived. I've enjoyed my experience at every place that I've lived. Now, again, they've all been within a couple of miles of one another. I'm not a world traveler in that sense, but I've never been emotional about leaving one place behind where I looked at it and said, that was the homestead. And folks out there, I'm sure, will weigh in. We get messages on our social media about these pieces. A lot of people are real emotional. You know, it was their bedroom, it was their backyard, it was where they got the first kiss from their girlfriend on the front porch. I did not ever, and I've thought about it. I don't know why it is. I've always been excited.
See, that surprises me. I would
Yeah,
see you hugging your old house
right,
because
right.
that's where Linda brought,
Yep,
Jeff in, or, whatever. Like, ah,
I agree. No, no, it's a surprising, and you selling your condo has made me revisit that again, and I don't have an answer for
I'm going to miss the sunrises.
why. Well, I was going to ask you, will you, if you do end up selling your place and you move, will you have some emotional moments, some memories of walking away from that condo? You say, man, I'm going to miss this thing.
I have absolutely, it's been a dream come true for me to live here. I mean, I used to come down here in the early 90s, and this is where I didn't want to live necessarily in this building, but I wanted to live, maybe it's a Newhart thing or whatever, or different strokes living in a big building or whatever, or the odd couple, those guys all lived in high rises. Um, I had always wanted to live down here because of the ballpark, right? To be near the stadium. The reason I moved here, and it's funny, I would even have this picture behind me. I probably should get a better picture. The reason I moved down here was because of this, right? I mean, the reason I moved down here was to go to games. So much of that has changed about my life, whether it's Peter Angelos, baseball, where I am with baseball, where baseball is with me, how it makes me feel. It doesn't make me feel the way it makes you feel, right? So I would say to you, we didn't move down here to go to Phillips or to go to the ESPN zone or even to walk to Amici's, which we do, because I don't know that we ever felt like it was really walkable. When we moved down here, I don't think we realized how much we would walk, how little we would actually use a car, especially during a pandemic, right? But we love Baltimore. We love the city. We love walking around. I want it to be better. I want restaurants that used to be here to come back. They're not. So when it comes to the romanticism about leaving it, it's not that we've not enjoyed it. I'm at a point in my life, and I've done a lot of work, right? I mean, I've got my Tony Robbins book right here on my desk. So, I'm always sort of making distinctions with my four color pen, of which I have a purple pen now. Did I show you this last week? My wife got me the one with the purple. I have five colors now. So, making distinctions on stuff. And I would say this, I like change, right? So I'm at a point in my life, and it's strange for me because all these concerts are coming back online. The Ravens schedule came out. This is an aging issue for me. I mean, I don't say midlife crisis or whatever. I would call it a change, which I don't want to talk about box scores anymore. I really don't even enjoy talking baseball with you because this turns into an argument because I know I'm right. I mean, I don't think I'm right. I've sat here and witnessed it as far as the deterioration.
Right on what? I don't know. Right on what?
About what it's done to the city, about the baseball team's role in making someone like me not care to live here anymore, that it's not important to me to be 2 blocks away. I paid a premium to be 2 blocks away from the ballpark.
Well, I would always tell
to go to
anybody, you
Oriole
don't
games
give,
that I do not go to.
yeah, you
And
don't
when I
give
do go to
others.
them, they're free, and I don't enjoy it the way I used to. So I don't want to take it into it, but you're asking me about leaving here, things that have gotten better about being here, walking, being a person that enjoys outdoor things more than a ball game or a concert. I mean, I feel like I was a pretty limited guy at 30, right? Like I like girls, ball games, and concerts. I think I like more things and more people and more conversations now. And I think the crab cake tour is like part of that. It's not really about the crab cake. It's about the people I'm going to meet, the experiences I'm going to have that I would never have had. You would have never have talked me into camping in the Savage River without this thing like the pandemic and my change. Listen, if Peter Angelos had embraced me and been kind to me and been all the things that he's not, and I still have my press pass, I'd still be going to games 40 times a year if people were nice to me. People there have been so awful to me
Again, you're
for so
right. We've
long that
we've
I
been
don't
over
go
that
anymore.
we've been over that so many times.
Yeah, I
As I
mean, I'm
said,
just
that
saying, like,
Peter Angelos to me is rear view
but
mirror
it's
and
changed my life.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you asked me about my condo, right?
right.
I'm selling my condo because I want to do something different, live someplace different, uh, eat different places, walk different places, do different things. My wife wants a grill. She wants a garden. She deserves that
Sure.
after all she's been through. And she kind of wants to have like coffee outside in the morning. Now that might be
Huh?
a deck in another high rise. I really don't know where we're moving to. People get back. Why do people ask me that, Don? Can I ask you, why do people ask where are you going when
Well, I
I
think
don't really know?
it's a natural question. It's when people are selling their home,
But
they
you don't
normally
know.
no. Well, normally that's unusual. So
But
that's a
you
good
can't
unusual.
know where you're unless you want to carry two
No,
two
no.
mortgages.
But most people, when they go to sell their home,
They say I'm
have
going to
a
Catonsville.
they have another neighborhood they've picked out. Sure, they say
But
I
I
want
could
to
say
live in
I'm going to
Towson.
Catonsville, but then I'd have to find a place in Catonsville.
Right. That's
And
what
it's
people
really hard to
do.
find a place right now, as Jeff will tell you, right?
That's what people do. They'll say, I'm going to Towson or I'm going to Ellicott City or I'm going to Columbia. They have another neighborhood they've staked out, and
All of
that's where
those
they're going to live.
places sound fine,
Yeah.
like
So
literally, but
it's
I
just a
think we're going to
question.
start here. We don't
Just a
dislike where we live.
No, that's not inferred in that question. When people ask you where you're going, that's just a
I just don't
conversation.
know. I
When
don't
people,
know.
that's a fair answer. But I'm saying normally when people are getting ready to move, they've picked out another area that they like. Now you're doing it the right way, quite honestly,
You know
which
what
the
I've
way.
always wanted to do? I've always wanted to live like in a guest house at the end of a driveway that would be very small and humble and left alone. You know what I
Well,
mean?
call Hennessy. Call
Yeah, you
Hennessy.
know,
See if
it
he'll
happens.
call Hennessy. See if he'll rent you his. He's got a really nice guest house behind his house up
That
there
probably
on
won't be happening, but that's
in
okay. I'm
Kingsville.
glad you
But
brought
that's
it
the
up.
kind of house you're talking about. Hey, let's talk. Let's switch from the personal reflection. You know, every time we come on, Nestor, it's fascinating. It's almost like it really does speak to the world we live. There's breaking news that's taking place that takes me away from the list that I've made. So I make a list, I send it to you. I said, here's some things happen,
That's why I don't read the
what I'm
list.
going to talk to about. I
You
understand.
want to
So
produce a radio show, and I'm unproducible. Ask anybody that's ever produced my radio show in 30 years
so
whether I'm producible.
so this week, as we're getting ready to do the recon, I wake up and once again, after thousands of years, the Israelis and the Palestinians are trying to destroy each other. And I find it absolutely heartbreaking. And I find it heartbreaking on a personal level because, like you and like so many of our listeners, I have close Jewish friends, I have close Muslim friends, and I see how painful this is for them in a way that the rest of us have real difficulty understanding. And it is very, very painful. There are no easy solutions. You know, you've got Hamas shooting rockets into Jerusalem. You then got the Israelis launching rockets back and leveling high rises. We now have mobs of people on both sides. Palestinian mobs tracking down Jewish citizens in the settlements. We've got Jewish mobs tracking down Palestinians, beating them. I mean, it is chaotic and it's heartbreaking. And as part
Well,
of
it's also
our
about sacred land, which speaks to
oh,
whether my condo is sacred to me or whether I feel like it's unto me and I need to die here, right? Like, I think that's what you're asking because a lot of people are very emotional about their land, be it religious, be it sacred, spiritual. It's the bedroom I grew up in. It's the place my grandfather bequeathed to me and where my people are weird about their rings and their things and their trinkets and their stones and their
well, and you
memories.
think back.
But yeah, I mean, it does speak to that piece of land being sacred to two groups of people and finding harmony, right? Like I guess we go back to your childhood talking about like Vietnam, but like just thinking about like John Lennon singing "Give Peace a Chance," right? Like
Well,
when you say to me like, what do we need there? You think about the difference between peace and watching these rockets in this bubble, over the city. It's Star Wars, and I thought Star Wars was when we were bombing back in '93, the first Bush, right?
no doubt. Yeah, right. Exactly right. When we were going to get in and get out, and if you break it, you own it. All of that. Listen, I think back to, I thought a lot about President Carter when I woke up, and how heartbroken he must be in his attempts to bring Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat to the table in the Camp David Accords. I mean, really, really heartbreaking. And then
And
the
Jimmy
other
Carter's
piece
still
of
here watching this, right?
the other piece of this, I thought, is that we've got to be very, very careful in our own country, because much of the analysis now is pointing to the fact that neither the Israelis nor the Palestinians have a leader who has a clear mandate in their own country to govern. So Netanyahu is on very shaky ground. It's the importance of stable leadership, and that always brings us back to the Biden story that we talk a lot about each week. I mean, this week again, he hit a new level of high in his polling numbers, 63%. At the same time, Nestor, at the same time, and you and I talked about this on another episode with the gubernatorial candidate, Tom Perez. I've now watched several times the clips from recent congressional hearings where 3 or 4, Paul Gosar and others, Republican congressional representatives
That denied something we watched with our own eyes
that
100 days
we
ago.
all watched the Capitol being run over. We watched people killing a police officer. We watched people trying to find the Speaker of the House and the Vice President to lynch them. We watched them break windows. We watched them break into the Speaker's office. We watched them breach
We watched
the
them
floor.
threaten police officers.
Threaten police officers.
Over
We
and over and
watched
over again.
the terrifying footage recently that CNN had. Was it Officer Fanone?
Everyone there committed a
with
crime.
The body camera.
Everyone there committed a crime against a traitorous. Like I can't believe this shit happened and people aren't furious.
People
like I on a daily basis, I'm like, and then to watch this clown Gosar, I mean, it makes my blood boil. It makes my blood boil.
And it's terrifying. And I would encourage our audience to pay attention, to be involved. Don't disengage, because I hate Nazi references and Hitlerian references and Goebbels references.
These are dangerous people.
It is impossible to watch someone stare into a camera and say this. And this is what the person from Georgia said. This is the biggest lie of all, to suggest there was an insurrection. Because what really happened that day was that we had a group of Trump supporters who behaved as tourists and walked peacefully through the Capitol and took pictures. If you didn't know better, you would think you were simply watching another tourist day in the Capitol.
It was the most Baghdad Bob thing I've ever seen.
And there are, and I've written about it. And again, I would hope folks do subscribe to my blog. It's at donmoeller.com. It's also on Baltimore Positive, but you can go. It's the front porch. I write about it this week, and I say that Lindsey Graham and Kevin McCarthy are right. And I knew people would react to that, and I've gotten a reaction. And they're right in this sense. They have calculated, when Lindsey Graham says that in the short term, there's no way forward in the Republican Party without Donald Trump, he's 100% correct. If you do the math, if 70% of Republican voters believe that Donald Trump won and that Joe Biden is not a legitimate president. That's 52 million people. Thank you, Sister John Buff, for teaching me elementary math at St. Mark's many, many years ago. 52 million people. So Lindsey Graham is 100% correct. Donald Trump won the argument on that issue with his followers because he had Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham and others and OAN and willing to go along with that, Newsmax and others. So they now believe that. So Lindsey Graham, for folks who understand politics, Lindsey Graham's not wrong. If Lindsey Graham, who stood up on January 6th and said, folks, Joe Biden won, stop the foolishness, he's the president, get over it. That's what he said. On January 6th, Kevin McCarthy said President Trump owns responsibility for this. He owns this. This is on him. That was McCarthy. That was Lindsey Graham. They then realized that their voters did not agree. And there's no way out of this rabbit hole for
They're
them
invertebrates
right now.
Well, the Liz Cheney thing, you haven't even mentioned Liz Cheney here.
Well, she's at the center of all this because there's no one whose policies I would disagree with more on every single issue. I doubt that Liz Cheney and I agree on one issue, except one. Except one. Liz Cheney believes Joe Biden was elected and there was no election fraud. Now, Liz Cheney's voting record, as I write in my blog, Liz Cheney had a 90+%, I think it was 92% voting record of supporting Donald Trump. Elise Stefanik, whose place Liz Cheney is going to take, had a 77% support of Donald Trump voting record. Not nearly as conservative or supportive of the president as Liz Cheney. But Liz Cheney has been voted out. Elise Stefanik will be voted in because Liz Cheney's original sin was that she said Joe Biden was elected president. That's where we are. And in the short term, Nestor, they are correct. They can't abandon those 52 million people. If they did, their party would disintegrate. Long term, I think those who like to write and muse and think about this stuff, the John Meachams and others, would say you can't survive with this approach. The question becomes for our democracy moving forward, right, is how much damage is done in the meantime? How much damage is done while we're waiting to sort all of this out and see what happens in 2022 and 2024 and on, because there's going to be some damage along the way. Because the only thing these folks will understand is if it truly does bring about electoral carnage. I mean, that really becomes the issue. Will it bring about electoral carnage for these folks? And we don't know the answer to that yet.
Well, when you try to fix the elections, right? I mean, that's part of the issue here with gerrymandering. And we're going to have John Sarbanes on to start us off with our Fadley's Crab Cake Tour. Don Moeller joining us here. We are doing the Recon here on all things politics. We've done a lot of sports. We did a lot of baseball last week, certainly on the political scope. We've had a bunch of these gubernatorial candidates on. This state is an interesting ping pong ball in that way. As we talked to Malia Cromer and Damian O'Doherty last week about this, that on these issues and who is going to find Andy Harris attractive and who is going to find Michael Steele attractive, right? Like that's who's going to find Larry Hogan attractive. Larry Hogan thinks he's going to be president, right? Literally, right?
Well, he's lost 50 or 60 pounds toward that end. He's working his way towards that.
Yeah, what's his game? Give me his insight. He's losing weight.
Well, the inside, the inside on that is when you run for office. I mean, I've been in that room when we tried to dress Kevin up, told him he had to go get better suits and nicer ties. And I've never seen his wife, Jill, happier. She said, I've been telling him that forever. You guys are finally going to get him nicer suits and nicer shirts and nicer ties. So what happened is they sat
around. Image is everything, as Andre Agassi said.
They sat in a room and they said, hey, Larry, if you're serious about this, you can't run around, looking like a pseudo, a sumo wrestler. You're going to have to lose 50 or 60 pounds. You're going to have to get suits that fit. You're going to have to get shirts that fit. I mean, for a long time, if you remember, again, I'm not picking on the guy's looks. I don't care what Larry Hogan looks like. But for a long time, he couldn't button his shirt. He couldn't tie a tie. He was so heavy. So now he's lost 50 or 60 pounds. He hopes to be a voice in the Republican Party. I'm not sure in today's Republican Party
That's what I'm wondering. I
that
don't know
there's an
that there's place
appetite.
for anyone sane when they're throwing Liz Cheney out. I mean,
Well, obviously,
and I don't know at what point Matt goes to prison. I mean,
right.
I
Well,
mean,
that's
now
what
you
our
got
friend
this
Michael,
this
that's what our friend Michael
goofball in
Steele.
Georgia going after other women in Congress halls like it's a wrestling match.
But Marjorie Taylor Greene is a fundraising superstar for her right now. Listen, Nestor, just recently, Kevin, this shows you this is actually what makes people pretty sick. And
yeah, because fundraising is the first thing a guy
right,
like up.
It disgusts people. So Kevin McCarthy comes to the Oval Office, right? Comes to the Oval Office, meets with the president and the vice president. And they try to, get some common ground on infrastructure as they move forward. And the president characterizes it as a pretty good meeting. McCarthy then does two things. He walks out of a meeting and he holds a press conference and he says, well, I don't know why you all are asking me about the election. No one disputes the fact that the election wasn't fair and square. Well, yes, they do. Donald Trump does, and he puts out a message every day about it. And you've just kicked Liz Cheney out of her leadership position because she said Joe Biden won. So you're saying that nobody disagrees with that. So Kevin McCarthy's blatantly lying to the press. And then within minutes of him leaving the White House, puts out a fundraising email where he calls President Biden corrupt. And what they know polls well, it's their go-to. It's been their go-to since FDR, and his radical socialist agenda. Everything's got to be because they know, oh my God, people say we don't want a radical socialist. But the problem they've had from day one, right, is that people know Joe Biden. He just sat down again last night or recently with Lawrence O'Donnell, and at the end teared up when talking about his son Bo and what Bo would say if he's here. So people look at Joe Biden and they look at him picking a flower in the garden for his wife. They look at him holding hands and they go, yeah, I don't know. Joe Biden looks like Lenin or Marx to me. He looks like my next door neighbor and a guy I'd be breaking bread with at Rehoboth. So strange times. Before we get out of here, what's your first take on the schedule? I know you and Luke and others have taken a look at it. 17 games, that's a little different. What's your takeaway from the schedule?
Strange with all the home games in the middle, how and all the late games in division. I'm not one to complain about it. I don't think it's an easy schedule, but I also think the first 6, 7, 8 weeks, the Detroits and the Denvers, the Las Vegas Raiders, although that place will be electric that night. My vibe is they're going to be fine. My vibe is they're going to be they need to keep the quarterback healthy. They're the best team in the division. I mean, I'll sit here and urinate upon the Browns until they show me differently, but I will not kick the Steelers while they're apparently down or whatever. They never go away like a cockroach. You're not going away.
Well, my takeaway, one of my takeaways is because I'm terrible at predicting. Everybody immediately likes to predict wins and losses, right? I don't know, because you don't have injuries, you don't have any of that stuff. I'm never close to predicting wins and losses. But the one thing I can predict is that when those television executives went into a room, they said, "Hey, this guy in Baltimore, he's pretty much fun to watch. Let's get him on at night," right? I mean, win, lose, or draw, they love Lamar running around and doing his 360s and playing Madden football out there on the field.
Well, so Lamar, and we played well on the road too. And I think that I talked to Luke at length about this. I felt differently about road games when they came out when Flacco was the quarterback. We were not a road team, and maybe in the postseason or whatever. But you could always say, well, if you're playing elite teams on the road, we usually lost those games in that era, right?
Nestor, that's interesting.
And we always lost one to Jacksonville or somebody we shouldn't have too.
You know, my number one football and baseball pundit is my grandson, Jake. And it's interesting you said that about the road, because Jake's point was, looking at the schedule, he said, "Hey, Pop, you got to remember, people overlook the fact Lamar travels well." He said his game is well suited for the road. He doesn't care. You talked about how electric that stadium's going to be. Lamar traditionally has played well on the road. So I think it's going to be fun. Listen, Nestor, I'm excited. Folks know we've been in 513 for many, many years. How many years that stadium been open now? You're good at that stuff. I'm not.
98.
98 it's been open. So holy mackerel, 20, what, 23 years? Yeah, 23 years. I've got to tell you, as much comfort as you feel at home, and you can have your own beer and your own snacks, I missed being in 513. I missed being out there in all the madness and being cold on days and even wet on days. There's just something about being out there.
Well, when you have it taken away too, right? Like, we now know what it looks like to see empty stadiums, right? Games for no one. Luke talked about that at length. Just the Orioles games, people being there, 10,000 people being there last weekend when the Red Sox were in. It feels like we're coming out of this, right?
No, it feels like we're coming out of it. I think the Orioles will be up probably to 20, 25,000 soon. Again, boy, we talk about the bird watch every week. It's the first time in a long time, Nestor. I was trying to think back when the last time we had a prospect that generated as much excitement as some of these kids. I mean, I don't know how closely you're watching this DL Hall at Bowie, but I can tell you one thing: we're going to go down and watch this kid throw the ball. I mean, the other night when I went on my phone, I thought, let's see what Bowie's doing tonight. DL Hall's been. It was 4 innings, and he had struck out 9. I had to look at it twice. I said, the guy just struck out 9.
Yeah, but that's more common than up and down the minors. That's happening.
But I'm thinking if he doesn't get hurt, he's the real deal. Rodriguez, the real deal. As I've said before, we need catching help in the worst way. God forbid Rushman is not all they think he's going to be. So, I mean, you're right. I feel like we're coming out of it. And my buddy Max Weiss and I would say we might even get back to the movie soon. You'll get back to a concert. You're going to be traveling the state with crab cakes. So good stuff happening all around, and another great edition of the Recon.
We had a hell of a week of radio here, Don. I mean, Preakness week, Bob Baffert checked in early before he got popped, but after he got popped, I mean, I'm talking about the best people in the industry, Don. Dick Girardi.
What's your take
Randy
on
Moss,
Baffert?
Kenny Mayne checked in this week. Marty McGee, Donna
What's your take on Baffert and this scandal? Is Baffert blowing smoke at all of us?
Well, I mean, I talked at length about this all week.
Is Baffert a cheater?
Lance Armstrong denied it. One thing every cheater has in common is they don't say, "Yep, caught me."
Right.
30 tests. As Marty McGee from the Daily Racing Forum, has been my friend since the '80s, said, "Fool me 29 times, shame on me. Fool me 30 times, shame on you, shame on me, whatever." But in the case of Baffert, it's happening too. I asked Marty McGee again. I did such these guests I have, and I always say to you, what makes the show good at Baltimore Positive isn't dumb questions from me; it's smart answers from the guest. And I've had such amazing people on. I mean, no one knows more about horse racing than Dick Girardi and Marty McGee. No one knows more about horse racing than Randy Moss and Donna Brothers, and certainly Kenny Mayne came on this week for a while. So I've asked all of them, and it's been the same thing. Marty McGee said to me, I said to him, "Marty, how's this playing in the trailers? How's this playing with the other trainers? How do they look at it? How is this viewed by the peers?" And Randy Moss is like, "It's Hatfield and McCoy. They there's trainers that don't like each other, like golfers that don't like each other, like whatever. And there's other that are more aligned." Marty McGee said to me, "It's funny you'd ask that, because my brother is a trainer. And my brother's a trainer 2 stalls over from Bob Baffert. And my brother has been doing this 18 years and has never had one positive test ever."
There you go. That's all I need to know.
That's how seriously they all take it.
I saw D. Wayne Lucas interviewed. You could tell he was irritated. And it is listen, all the way back to the steroid folks. Again,
you believe Rafael Palmeiro when he was waving at you?
Oh my Lord!
I knew what a
Brady
morally bankrupt
Brady
cat that
wasn't
guy
jacked.
was because I spent time around Rafael Palmeiro.
Brady just happened to hit 50. Brady just woke up and hit 50 one
Don,
day.
when you get up with your buddies over at the warehouse, if you would have gone down with over a crab cake with Brady Anderson when he's here running the place with John and Lou, because you're the county executive, and you would have said, Brady, just it's between you and me. I'm a big ball fan. I mean, I saw your baseball cards in 89, 90 when you came over here in the Schilling deal. I know a lot about baseball. You use steroids, right? He would say, come on, dude, no way.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he
Way.
would. I'm
No
sure he
way.
would. And he was never really connected to it, which was, in his saying, he'd say, hey, look, man, they checked and I didn't. But come on, Brady hit.
Okay.
Going back,
So,
we started with our moms. We end with our moms. I don't
okay,
like
but
cheaters.
to be
I don't
still
like
lying
cheaters.
about it 3 decades later, isn't that what we just accused both of the McCarthys of doing? Like literally, right? Like at
Well,
some
I'm just
point.
saying, no, I'm not. I can't get mad at Brady because it's never been proven in my gut. I mean, here's the thing: you and I think Brady roided up. I mean, I don't think you just wake up and hit 50. But in Brady's defense, he would say, "Guys, they checked. I'm telling you, I just had a good year." Okay, Brady, I hear you.
Brady, a lot of the other guys were doing it, right?
Yeah,
Like right? Yeah.
I hear you, but I don't expect him to sit down and say,
Well,
"Oh yeah,
again,
sure
integrity, honesty,
Yeah.
cheating. This goes to the heart of everything you just asked me and everything I went up and down the river with all week with every guest. You can go out to Baltimore Pod. All we talked about all week was if you cheat, you bang on trash cans and you get the win. If you cheat at USC and they pay you money and you win. If you cheat at cycling and you win 10 Tour de France and if you cheat and you win, you get away with it here. You
Yeah,
get away with it.
I don't
And
like
that's why
coloring.
they cheat. They cheat because they get away with it.
And I don't like coloring outside the lines. And that's where I connect it back again to the Celebrity Apprentice president, because he colored outside the lines in terms of trying to destroy democracy. So whether it's Bob Baffert or the Celebrity Apprentice president or Brady or Roger Clemens, whoever, follow the rules. Don't cheat. If you play golf, don't move your ball. Don't improve your lie. It's pretty simple. Our friend John Feinstein I'm sure would tell us you'd find a lot about people's character when you see them on a golf course. So
Brady Anderson made $50 million playing baseball. They welcomed him back in to be the trainer. And Brady Anderson's a big effing winner in life. Rafael Palmeiro's a big winner in life.
Yep.
Every one of those guys that cheated, that cashed a check, they're all Roger Clemens won at life. Andy Pettit won at life. A-Rod, despite missing out on this Jennifer Lopez, is won at life. That's my point. My point is they're not going to come and take Jose Altuve's money away.
But they still have to look in the mirror. And the Astros
that matters to you and I because we have integrity. When you don't have integrity, I've learned this. It doesn't matter. Donald Trump sleeps really well somehow.
And that's what the Recon is all about. So it's been another good week.
All right, man. You take care. Rest up. Spring up. Spring is sprung. Get yourself ready. We're going to be eating some crab cakes. We'll be at State Fair next Friday with Evan celebrating Catonsville and all things 21228 out of Frederick Road. Going to be at Fadley's this week, Costas next week, and Pizza John's, and Coco's, and Pappas, and G&M, and everywhere else we can take them. Barrett's up in Harford County with Barry Glassman. We'll be setting that schedule out, telling you more about that as we get up on Memorial Day. Have a safe travel and journey. On behalf of former Baltimore County Executive Don Moeller, I am Nestor Aparicio. We are having another Wise conversation, courtesy of our friends at Wise Markets. We are at WNST.net, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore positive.